Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about the market because right now we're sitting in a very, very weird spot, and it seems like kind of things are a little bit boring. Nothing too crazy is going on, but I think we're kind of starting to coil up and potentially get primed for a pretty decently sized move to one direction or the other. Now, I can't tell you what direction that's going to be. My own personal bias would tell you it would be a move to the upside, just because I still don't think we've seen the top of the crypto market yet. I could be wrong. History could be different. This time could be different, all that different type of stuff. But right now, what we're trying to see, or what we're doing, is it's very clear that we're seeing a lot of consolidation at this point within the Bitcoin chart, at least. And then alts kind of not really doing a whole lot. They're kind of moving up a little bit, moving down a little bit. If we do actually look at the crypto bubbles, you'll see today we're kind of moving down a little bit. Solana not doing particularly well. XRP pulling back a little bit. Radium, Jupiter, basically like much of the big ones in Solana are not doing particularly well. And then we also have Virtuals not doing the best either. Sweep pulling back a little bit. So some others kind of here and there that aren't particularly doing too well. But today overall in the market, we can see it's kind of a red day, but we are still green on the week. But again, pretty mixed. I wouldn't say that there's a super clear direction on the market. It's just kind of bouncing around. Ronin, Caspa, Cake, Telcoin, those are kind of the big ones. Sonic is probably the next largest, or kind of the next noteworthy one. This used to be the Phantom. So previously FTM. So that's kind of what we're seeing in the market today. If we do look at the market overview, it's going to be a lot of the similar type of stuff. We can see here the market has started to recover a little bit from some of those lows we saw a couple weeks back. We are technically in the weak zone currently, but very, very close. I mean, bordering on neutral. As you can see, there's plenty of coins in the neutral, and then even a couple up in here in strong and overbought. But again, of course, those are the exceptions, not the rule. And then here the market is sitting on neutral, which is a 51. So right about dead center. And I think this is probably pretty fair. I mean, the market's just, there's not really a lot going on. Like volume's low. If you look here, 117 billion, this is quite low, and this is even up from 30% over yesterday. So not the best overall. We can see liquidation's only 148 million, and that's up 75% from yesterday. So very, very, very low volume and kind of low volatility days over the past handful of days. And so we'll get to the chart here in a second and to why that is so important. We can also see here on the liquidation map, as well as the open interest volume, you can see nothing too much going on in the open interest. If we zoom in here a little bit and we take a look at volume, we can see volume is definitely trending down. People are kind of not really doing a whole lot. There's a lot of people just kind of sitting on their hands, kind of trying to take the wait and see type of approach. And then from there, obviously we'll have to see. Now, the reason I think that we're going to be continuing to the upside is because of what we're seeing in the charts. Also part of my bias that I do still think that we haven't seen the tops of this market yet. But again, who knows for sure. If we do look at the liquidation map, we can see about an even split here. If we do look, though, the important thing to note is only 1.66 billion to be liquidated on the upside and 1.28 on the downside. So very, very, very low volume in the market right now. We can even see here on this one, we're sitting at about 5. This is closer to average, but usually on the 7-day, we're sitting between 7 to 8 billion. So again, still a little bit lower, but this isn't too bad. The 1 day being at right around 1.5 billion is definitely unusual. So if we go to the liquidation levels, the one thing I wanted to show you, we've already been over 1 and 7, but I want to show you the 30-day, because the 30-day is the one that I do think is pretty interesting, and this is why I think we could be seeing a move to the upside. It's because look at the chart. I mean, it's pretty clear to see that there's definitely much more to be liquidated on the up or to the upside. So this would be liquidating a whole bunch of shorts, almost $11.5 billion all the way up to the upside here. That's a decent chunk of money. This is a lot for what we're usually seeing here. Usually this is between kind of 8 to 10 billion roughly. So the fact that we're over that is definitely a little bit unusual. We can also see to the downside only less than 5 billion. So over double going to the upside here, which is definitely very important to note. If you've been a long time follower of the channel, we've been consistently following this for months and months and months. More often than not, this will always come back and level itself up. And how it comes back and levels itself out is we see a move to the upside. Even if it's just a short-term move. I'm not saying that this is going to be a long-term move and it's going to be held for forever. It could just be a rogue wick. When, we run up to, maybe this like 104,500 range and then come all the way back down. Definitely doable, but usually when we see stuff like this, it means that we are going to see this liquidity taken out. Now again, as I said, we may not make it all the way to the up, like all the way to the top here. Maybe we can see some pretty big liquidity walls kind of around this $100,000 range. which again, I do think makes sense. So maybe we only see Bitcoin kind of make a relatively quick move up to the 100,000 range. Maybe it's up to like the 105,000 range. And then as the sentiment starts to shift, people will close their shorts and begin entering their longs. And we actually have another thing that we can take a look at to see this. Give me 1 second to find it. It's called the visual screener right here. And this is kind of a good indication of what people are doing. So right now you can see that people are closing longs and entering shorts on the 15-minute. Let's go out to the 24-hour, take a little bit further of a look here. And what we can see is the market's kind of clustered right here in the middle. People aren't really doing a whole lot. A little bit of a bias towards closing longs and entering shorts. So again, more liquidity moving towards that to the green side, or liquidating shorts. So that's kind of what we're seeing still, but it's pretty mixed overall. We've got a little bit of everybody kind of doing everything. Sometimes when the markets are overly bearish, we'll usually kind of be way down in like this area, or maybe even kind of more focused into just purely entering shorts. So there's a lot of that type of stuff that we'll usually see. So far, the market does still look pretty indecisive. Now, if we go and take a look at the Bitcoin chart, we can see exactly that. I mean, if we look over the past couple of months, we've basically been between like 91,000 and like 105,000 if you exclude, again, looking at the daily, if you exclude some of these wicks. I mean, we could maybe even pull this up to like the 106,000 range, I guess, if we wanted to. But what we can see is, very, very strong wicks up at this top side, meaning a bunch of sell pressure. And let's see, I mean, we could even do this. We'll just pull it up, probably something like that. We're going to be losing some of these bottom wicks, but this is probably a better indication of it. So we can see, a lot of liquidity up in this range, a lot of liquidity down in this range, and then a little bit of some liquidity kind of in the middle point here, as we see kind of in this area, this area, this area, and this area. But recently, we've done even kind of more than that, and we've really just kind of packed in between these two zones. And so over the past, 10 days or so, we haven't really seen much outside of like 94.5 to like 99,000 basically. So, definitely price consolidating a decent bit, particularly when you look compared to, what we've seen over the past several months. And even before that, obviously we saw, a really nice run to the upside here. So, we're definitely kind of packing it in a little bit. One thing I am looking for that we haven't totally seen yet, and this is why I'm kind of saying that this next week is going to be super important, is because right now the Bollinger Bands are still kind of on that downtrend. But usually when Bollinger Bands and when volume tightens and price action tightens and a lot of that type of stuff tightens, we'll see these Bollinger Bands start to squeeze a little bit. You can see here, we started to see them squeeze a little bit, here when we saw that kind of run to the upside. If we look over here, we saw a bit of a squeeze there, saw a bit of a squeeze here. Like this usually happens when we potentially see kind of runs to the upside here, or even runs to the downside. You can see there's a bit of a squeeze and then there was a breakdown. So what I'm looking to see here is maybe the initial indications that we could be seeing a little bit of a pinch in these Bollinger Bands. Usually with the daily, as we can tell, they're not the like super accurate or like super indicative. This is probably the best one that we've seen in the recent past. But if we look at something like the 4-hour charts, we can see that these are usually, when we see these squeezes happen, I don't know why it's not loading too much of the history, but like here we can see one, we started to see a pretty tight squeeze here, and then we saw a break to the downside. So when you start to see Bollinger Bands level out and then start to squeeze down, you know that there could be a point of volatility coming. That's kind of what we're seeing here, right? I mean, compared to what we've seen over the past 10 days or so, we are seeing a pretty tight squeeze here within the Bollinger Band. So there is that possibility that we do see that break within the next week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks. Hard to say for sure with this type of thing. All we know is that of what could be happening potentially at some point. Again, if everybody knew when it was going to happen, then people would try and front run it. So usually, you can never know exactly for sure when something's going to happen, because that's just not how this type of thing works. But hopefully you can see over like certain periods of time, when you see these things squeeze, you usually start to see a little bit of some break and some price volatility. Here we can see another perfect example. This one obviously a move to the downside here, but we started to see that squeeze. We didn't know how long it was going to be, but we knew there would be a break at some point. Again, this was a break to the downside. When we see the squeeze in Bollinger Bands, it's never a guarantee where it's going to go. We just know it's going to go in some direction fairly aggressively. So that's just one thing to take a note of. If you look, we'll go back to here. So, kind of what we're seeing here is probably, if I had to guess, if we do see we see these start to squeeze a little bit and we see a bit of a break, it's probably going to be down outside of this bottom liquidity zone just because of how close we are, or potentially a run all the way back up into this top liquidity zone. Not necessarily a break out of it, but we could see that type of run. who knows for sure, right? I mean, RSI is looking decent here, so things are looking pretty balanced right now. But overall, it's just kind of wait and see. Nothing too crazy or too special happening. If you are interested though in getting into Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, any of those types of things, while the market's a little bit boring and price is consolidating, and maybe you're trying to get in front of some of these potential moves to the upside, we do have that link in the description below to BTCC, 10% bonus on first time deposits, as well as extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user, all while not requiring KYC or a VPN. So if that is something that's interesting to you, just check in the description below. That'd be a great way to go on ahead and get started and signed up. They do have demo trading and stuff like that. So if you're just kind of new and you're looking to kind of get your feet wet and stuff like that, they've got that option as well. So moving on, I wanted to kind of move into DeFi Llama and kind of check the state of on-chain activity. And so what we can see, we still have not reached TVL equivalent to what we saw in 2021. So my kind of bias and what my expectation would be in a growing industry like crypto and Web3 and all that type of stuff is that we would see some of these tops surpassed. We have not seen that yet, which is part of the reason why I think we could continue to see that. In addition, we have seen an uptick in on-chain volume, which is good, but that hasn't necessarily materialized into TVL. If you ask me, this is almost entirely due to meme coins, because meme coins are of course increasing the volume on chain, but they're not really increasing value on chain, because it's kind of just like a musical chairs of people kind of swapping liquidity with each other and all that type of stuff. Maybe that sounds a little bit cynical, but it's kind of true, right? I mean, I think I saw a stat the other day that 98% of people who trade meme coins lose money. So even if they make money, they are usually giving it all back, similar to gambling, which is why I consider it very similar to gambling. Now, the other thing, this just kind of disappeared here real quick, but the other thing we can see is stablecoins do continue to grow. So this is something that I think is really interesting. We're here over $225 billion of stablecoin market cap. This is something I think is really cool for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know why it's so hard to see. But we can see it's like right up at this point where my cursor is. But the cool thing with this is this is one of two things, and I think it's probably both, right? There is an increase of people looking to transact on chain. There's more interesting things to do on chain, so more people are holding their money within the crypto ecosystem. The second thing, and possibly even the greater of the two, is that stablecoins as a whole are reaching a wider adoption. So there are more people who want to transact using stablecoins. They want to pay people using stablecoins. They want to be paid using stablecoins, all of that type of stuff, which is why we are seeing the stablecoin market cap continue to move to the upside. This is all-time highs. So we have not seen more stablecoins on chain than what we have seen right now. So this is definitely huge business, massive point of growth, and a massive area of growth. So to me, this is a really good thing, fundamentally meaning that the crypto space is maturing. People are finding use cases, even if it's just stablecoins, right? That is a use case, and we can kind of build on it from there and kind of figure out what people want within the crypto ecosystem, all of that type of stuff. But it's really, really good news and very promising in my opinion that we are continuing to see stablecoin market cap continue to grow. At this level of growth, I mean, let's see, from the beginning of 2025 to now, we've seen about $25 billion. So given this rate, I mean, it's possible that we see, we end the year at 350, maybe even $400 billion of stablecoins on chain, which would be really impressive if the crypto market kind of continues. Keep in mind, this has gone up, what is that, 12.5% in 2 months? So that's like a 70% annualized return in a market that's like not particularly good. I mean, at the beginning of 2025, crypto was still a little bit hypey and stuff. So I guess we could say that, but ever since probably like the middle of January, crypto has been in a very bad position. And yet we've still onboarded $25 billion of stablecoins in that time. So people are seeing the value, people are seeing the adoption, all of that type of stuff. So regardless of what happens in the on-chain ecosystem, I do think we will continue to see stablecoins grow. If crypto continues to do well and people are making money and there's a lot of interesting things and interesting projects and stuff to do, a lot of that type of stuff on chain, then we may see that continue to even speed up. And that's where we can maybe see, 400 billion, maybe even 500 billion if we get lucky, by the end of 2025. So anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing in the market. Overall, TLDR, kind of not really too much going on. We're kind of in that wait and see point. We got to see which direction Bitcoin breaks. It's obviously very, very compacted into a pretty tight range right now. So which direction that we see it break out of is going to be very telling in terms of how the rest of the crypto market unfolds. Now, keep in mind, just because we see a break does not mean that it may break out of this zone that we've been in for the past several months. We could continue to stay in this zone, and we may continue to stay in this zone through all of spring, all of summer, maybe even into like early fall. It's hard to say for sure. Last year we spent almost 7 or 8 months sitting in a descending channel, and then once we broke out of it, we saw a ridiculous move to the upside. So, hard to say for sure. You never know when something is going to happen, which is why it happens so quickly, is because if everybody knew, again, as I always mention, people would have tried to front run it, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Time in the market, it always beats timing the market. So just remember that. Stay calm. Stay, I know boredom, hits a lot of people pretty hard. So stay as not bored as you can, given the boring market that we're in, and just don't do crazy stuff because you're bored and want to overtrade or anything. Just stay patient and be careful. So anyway, hopefully you guys found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, things like that, just drop them in the comment section. I do try to read and respond to all of those. I am getting more and more nowadays, so it does take me a little bit longer to get back to you guys, but I still do try to read and respond. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.